Hi, it's John Kelly. In this module, we are going to discuss audit inefficiency. And I've always said that we want to be efficient and effective when we do our audits, and this is going to talk about the ways that we often are inefficient and or ineffective. And of course, we want to follow professional standards and document what we have done properly. Now, this is my opinion, but I think there are four main sources of audit inefficiency. And the first is poor audit strategy. The second is spending too much time documenting the work. The third is writing review notes, and there's actually a separate module on review notes and how those can be made more efficient and more effective. And finally, workflow management. Now, each of these four things can waste more time than doing the needed procedures. So I guess we could get 4 or 5 or 6 times as much time in the audit because of things that are inefficient. And not only inefficient, which makes the partners unhappy, but each of these things can make auditing boring or time-consuming or frustrating, which makes staff unhappy. And if you hate doing audits, you say, oh, I don't want to be an auditor, auditing is no fun, probably one or more of these four things are the cause of why you're not having fun doing auditing. Now, a good audit strategy is very important, and that is discussed in most of the other modules I've prepared. Clearly, time spent performing procedures to address the risk of material misstatement is of the most value. That's where we'd like to spend almost all of our time. Hopefully, documentation pops out as a secondary objective. Now, the only thing to remember here is that planning, which gives us little evidence, is also a hugely important part of our audit strategy. If we do not properly plan the audit and spend time on that, even though we're not generating any evidence from that time, we will just be inefficient and ineffective in the whole rest of the audit. And as I said, planning time is often shortchanged. Let's just start doing procedures and we'll do planning later. That's a really, really bad idea. Proper planning and having a proper audit strategy will save you time later in the audit. And proper planning will help target our procedures to risk of material misstatement areas. If there's little risk of material misstatement, we don't need to do extensive procedures, and only planning will tell us that. Now, in the other modules, when I've talked about planning, we can sometimes combine our planning with execution if we're a little bit strategic. Systems walkthroughs, which are necessary for planning as a risk assessment procedure, can also provide evidence. And if we kind of do them together with the intention of getting both evidence and helping with the planning, that can be efficient and effective. Analytical procedures are a tremendously important and valuable planning tool. But if you have to do your analytical procedures at an interim date before year end, they're not going to give you any evidence, but they will help you with planning. And if you can find a way perhaps to update your analytical procedures at year end, then the planning and the year-end analytical procedure can kind of be efficient and effective together. Documentation. I think some auditors spend as much time documenting their audit as doing it, and that's a terrible waste. Now, regulators and inspectors are big fans of documentation, but I think if they saw how some auditors are now making documentation the sole focus of the audit to the point of overlooking the doing of procedures to address risk of material misstatement, I think they'd change their tune. So what we need to do is we need to find an efficient way of doing our documentation so the documentation is kind of prepared and done as the work is done and performed, and checklists can certainly help with that. They can both prompt us to do things and then serve as documentation of what we have done. So it's very important that we don't make preparing documentation more important than doing the audit work. Review notes. I have a separate module on review notes, but when review notes are done badly, they're a huge time waster, and they are probably a huge source of annoyance for staff. They're one of the reasons staff don't like doing audits. Clearing silly review notes long after the fieldwork's been done. What a waste. And also, review notes can delay the release of statements. I've seen many instances where, oh no, you can't have your statements today because we're still clearing review notes, and gee whiz, the fieldwork was finished a month ago and we're still clearing review notes. So that seems rather silly. The fourth major source of efficiency is workflow management. It's a big source of inefficiency and a big source of annoyance. So if we can manage the workflow in the audit better, we will have a happier time of doing the audit. Now, I guess the first thing, if people are saying, well, you know, we're not doing very well in this audit, you have to first check and make sure that all the non-audit stuff, tax, bookkeeping, things like that, are excluded from the audit fee. If we want the audit to be efficient and done to the fee, well, then the fee can't be clouded up with a bunch of other services that we're not recovering money on. So make sure that the audit fee, the fee for doing the audit, giving the opinion on the financial statement, is segregated, at least internally, from all the other services we provide the client. And then this is a list of things: budgeting, time budgeting, waiting, the time we spend waiting for clients. Partners spending time in the wrong places. Partners should be spending time in planning. Partners should be spending time reviewing the file, dealing with significant issues. Inconsistent firm practices. One partner wants it done one way, another partner wants it done another way. That's just going to take staff more time. And then file review not done in the field, not done on a timely basis, or just done badly. So those are all things as part of workflow management that we can do better. Budgeting mistakes. First one, not budgeting for planning time. Planning doesn't give us any audit evidence, but if we want to be efficient and effective and we don't spend the proper amount of time planning, we will do an efficient, ineffective audit. So we need to set aside time with the partner to do planning. And it could be, depending on the size of the firm and the size of the audit, it could be that the planning is done purely by the partner, and gee, if not much has changed in the client from year to year, that may not take a long time. But making sure that that's done, and done by the partner, and by the partner who has good knowledge and understanding of what's happened with the client this year, will make planning effective. Budgeting to the fee. We're not charging enough for the audit. We can only really recover 1 week of field time, even though we know it's going to take 2, so we decide to budget for a week. Well, that ain't going to happen. The job is going to go over. Another job is going to be dislocated. Staff are going to be unhappy. If it's going to take 2 weeks to do the job, I really don't care how much we're recovering. That's a business decision the partners made. We need to budget adequate time for staff to do the work. And the other thing is cleanup. We all know that there's going to be some time after you leave the field drafting financial statements, clearing off those last few review notes. We need to budget for cleanup time, because if you budget staff to go from job to job to job, just the field work, soon there's going to be an enormous backlog and jobs are going to be delayed and time is going to be taken and it'll be inefficient. Waiting mistakes. Waiting for the client to produce lists for us. So perhaps we need to prioritize that list for the client and say, you know, when we arrive, we want these 5 things to be done on Monday, and these things to be done on Tuesday, and these things to be done on Wednesday. And the other source of waiting, which we just talked about, is only budgeting for the field work and not cleanup, because what's going to happen is the staff are going to be off to a new job, and now we're going to have to wait until we can get a hold of them, and things are going to be delayed and time is going to be taken. So there's another waiting mistake. Partner time in the wrong places. Partner time spent on well-done planning is the most important use of planning or partner time, and that's professional standards give us guidance and tell us that. The other thing is partner review of the partner level bits of the file, high risk of material misstatement areas, for instance. And 220A18 has a list, and it's not a very long list, of the things the partner should be doing. So the partner needs to spend time on planning. The partner needs to spend time doing the partner level review things. And it's really not a very long list of things, and those are the things that the partner should be spending time on. Inconsistent firm practices, well, I really can't say much about this. If you want to be efficient and effective as a firm, everything has to be done the same way. And if one partner wants it done one way and another done another, well, it's just going to be inefficient and frustrating. So you just need to stop that. It's not easy. Don't do it. It's much easier said than done. Partners tend to be independent. They're supposed to be, and they want it done their way because that's the right way. But that's something a firm needs to focus on because it's inefficient and frustrating, and it drives staff crazy. Review, I've put that in a separate module. Clearly, real-time review in the field is the most efficient way of doing it. It's certainly the best for staff. Staff are trying to do it the right way, and if they're not promptly told when they're doing something wrong, it's frustrating. If you notice that there's a pattern in your review notes, like in every file the same review notes are being written, well, then it's time for some firm-wide training because people are misunderstanding what's supposed to be done and need to be reminded in training. If it's not being made clear to people in the writing and clearing of review notes, then you need some firm-wide training. The senior's time. Some people say, well, we're going to give the senior the most difficult, most complicated section. And of course, the senior's biggest job is to make sure that all the staff assistants are working efficiently, getting their work done, having their questions answered. So there's two solutions to that. First thing is don't give the senior a section at all. Say your job is supervision and review, and that's all you should be doing. And maybe you can spend your first couple of days on the job doing cleanup on the last job, and because you're not going to have too much to do in the first little while, and then you're going to be starting doing review as the job comes along. The other thing I've heard suggested is give the senior cash, a really simple section, because the senior is going to be constantly interrupted by questions and what about this and what about that, and the client's going to be coming in. So either a very simple section or no section at all, as opposed to deciding that the senior will be given the most complicated section. And if you have to do that, if you decide, look, only the senior can do this really complicated section, then you'd better make sure that there's enough time for the senior to do that section and also do the supervision and review. Because if it's not, then one of the two, supervision and review, is not going to be done right, or the complicated section is not going to be done right. So think carefully about the budget. So, thanks for listening.